Hey, this is Daniel Vitalis from SirThrival.com, and you're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. And I'm just here to remind you to rewild yourself.
Welcome to Extreme Health Radio. Extreme Health Radio.
Where natural solutions to almost every health condition are out there. Join us on our journey to find them.
Now here are your hosts,
broadcasting from sunny Southern California around the world,
Justin and Kate Stellman.
Actually, I have to correct the lady and say that it's only me today. Kate is on a silent retreat, enjoying herself in the hills of California. She went on a 3-day silent retreat, so she told me she's going to be listening today. So hopefully she's listening to this right now and enjoying herself. And my name is Justin, and this is ExtremeHealthRadio.com, episode number 176. So you could go to extremehealthradio.com/176 to check out the show notes and any reference materials that Emil DeToffol talks about during this show. This is going to be a really great show. We're going to talk about electromagnetic fields and cell phones and cell towers and all of these things and how they are affecting our health. So stay tuned, and we'll be introducing him in just a moment. And if you'd like to follow our shows and keep up to date with everything we're doing, we do shows 4 days a week, and we do shows live now 4 days a week. You can follow us on Facebook, extremehealthradio.com/Facebook, and we post our previous shows on there along with upcoming future shows and guests and all kinds of great stuff on our Facebook site. So feel free to like that page and send it off to your friends to like it as well. And let's see, for reference, today is Monday, November 11th, 2013. And there's a few ways to join the show if you'd like to do that. Love to have you do that. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/live, you can ask your questions during the live broadcast, which are 9 a.m. Pacific time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and soon to be Friday. So you could ask your questions live in the chat room. And you can also send an email to justin@extremehealthradio.com. Love to have you email me your questions for our guests. Or if you go to our website, you'll see a little voicemail tab on the right-hand side, and you can click that and send a pre-recorded voicemail from your computer straight to us, and we'll play it to our guest on the air. And that's always a great way to join the show as well. Lots of different ways to interact with the show. So it's a lot of fun doing that for you guys. And if you would like to support our work and keep the shows free for everybody, and you do purchases on Amazon, that's a great way to support us. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon and bookmark that page, and you can purchase anything from Amazon you'd like. Doesn't have to be health related, and you can support us that way. It'd be a great way to keep the show free for everybody and help us pay the bills. And today's just a beautiful day here in Southern California. Man, oh man, I took Maggie for a walk this morning down by the beach, did my sauna, did my rebounding. Just a beautiful sunny day, so hopefully you're having a great day wherever you are. And looking at our upcoming show schedule, we have lots of great guests, as we always tend to have. We have Daniel Vitalis coming up soon, and he's going to be talking about hormone health. And we've had quite a few questions come in recently, people asking about the hormones, especially women going through menopause and men with their hormones. So it's a big issue. So we'll be talking to Daniel Vitalis about that. And then we've got Dr. Morton Walker. I'm not sure if you've heard about him. He's a prolific author, and he'll be talking to us about cancer, how to prevent cancer naturally, how to heal from cancer. Lots of great stuff. He's been around the health field and industry for so many years. Then we've got Vani Hari from foodbabe.com. That should be a great show. We'll be talking about different ingredients that people buy at the store and how that relates to our health and what the chemicals are and all that good stuff. So that'll be a great show. And then today we've got Emil DeToffol from lessemf.com. And he is a native of New York State. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Chemistry from SUNY at Stony Brook in 1979, and a doctorate of dental surgery from SUNY at Buffalo in 1983. And he's joining us live today from Buffalo, New York. So thank you so much, Emil, for being on the show today.
Hi, Justin. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So how's the weather out in New York today?
We're having a great day here. It might reach 50 and partly sunny. We're happy about that for this time of year.
So you went to dental school starting off. You got your Bachelor of Science in Engineering Chemistry, and then after that you went to dental school and got your doctorate doing dental surgery in '83. Did you practice after that?
Yes, I did. I practiced in near Buffalo, New York for 11 years.
Okay.
With my wife, actually, who's a dentist as well. And we enjoyed that very, very much. And then after that time, we moved to the Albany area, mainly to be closer to family and get a change of career. This is about as big a change of career as I could imagine. It's very different. It's very different, but it suits me well. Using both the engineering part of education and the medical part. So I really like working with EMF, electromagnetic field issues, and helping people diagnose their EMF issues and helping them sort through the variety of solutions that are available.
Yeah, that's quite a change. Can you speak up just a little bit? It's a little bit low on our end here.
I will try.
Excellent. Thank you, Emil. So how did you make the transition, and did you guys both do that, your wife and yourself?
No, my wife is not involved in the business. She's busy taking care of our now 13-year-old child.
Okay.
And she's got her hands full with that. So, but I made the transition at the time because I was interested in this field, even since childhood, I'd say. I can remember as a child asking my dad how the music got into the radio in the car as we were driving along. And he was explaining about the waves in the air, shaking the electrons in the antenna and making that, amplifying it in the radio to make the sound come out. And it occurred to me, even at a young age, that if it's doing that to the electrons in the antenna, it must be doing that to the electrons in our body. And ever since then, I've had sort of a fascination / concern about the effects of electromagnetic fields on our bodies and on our environment. So then in 1996, when I was trying to decide what I was going to do next, I thought I would go into this field and found that there really wasn't much of anything available at that time, not in terms of information, not in terms of products. And so I decided, I would make it available. And so we set about creating a less EMF to make information about EMFs, to make meters and other ways of measuring or detecting EMF, and of course to provide a variety of solutions for how to reduce, how to shield, how to eliminate EMF exposure in our environment, whether it's at home or at work or school or in our car and so on. So over the years now, we're starting our 18th year here. We've increased the product line. There's probably over 300 different products we have, all related to EMF safety. And we're constantly on the lookout for new things, new ways to do things. To be honest, our customers often give us great ideas on how to approach a problem, and we love passing that information on to others as we go.
Interesting. Yeah, I did a search before the show started on antennasearch.com. You probably know that website.
I do.
Antennasearch.com, and I found near us there are 31 towers and 192 antennas within 4 miles of where I am.
It's an amazing statistic, isn't it? I would encourage your readers to go to that site. It's fabulous. You type in your address, and it will tell you exactly how many radiating sources, or at least registered radiating sources, there are in your immediate community. It doesn't tell you, though, that you might have Wi-Fi in your own home, or a microwave oven, or a cell phone, or some other device in your own home, or maybe even in your own hand that might be giving you as much or more radiation. But still, it'll tell you about how many towers. And it's easily in the dozens to hundreds in any urban or suburban area. We've checked in many different locations.
It's
shocking. It's shocking how we've electrified our environment.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to get away from these things entirely, isn't it?
Well, it is. There's a new ad out for which of the cell phone carriers? It might be for Verizon, where they're bragging. They're showing a map of the United States that's almost fully covered with dots of their cell phone coverage, and they're mocking how their competitors have much less coverage.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I mean, of course, people want coverage. You know, people are clamoring and complaining when they don't get coverage, even in the most remote areas. But at the same time, we have to ask ourselves, is that really what we want? Is that really what we need?
Right. Yeah, I would like to live in a place where there is absolutely no coverage, where there's no cell. I don't have a cell phone, but where there's no cell reception at all. I'm sure that would be a little bit healthier, wouldn't it?
I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how far do these cell towers broadcast? I mean, if I have 192 of them within 4 miles of me. I mean, how strong are they, and how far does each one broadcast, or does that change with each one?
Right. It certainly does. There's not like one style or one type. Keep in mind a couple of factors. Number one is they may not all be pointing in your direction. They may be pointing completely in the other direction. Number two, if they are pointing in your direction, they may be pointing above your head, out towards the horizon instead of down towards you, maybe.
So that really makes a difference, the direction they're pointing?
Yes, absolutely. A tower may have, imagine, most of the cell phone cell towers are highly directional. They have a view of maybe 100 degrees or so. And so they'll radiate out in that pattern. And usually they'll radiate from the horizon downward. So if you imagine an antenna 100 feet up off the ground, it's pointing out towards the horizon and then down some maybe 30 degrees or so, so that you have this swath of radiation coming out from it in that direction. But that would be one carrier's antenna. You may have multiple carriers on the same tower. They might have a ring of antennas. If you ever look at a water tower that has cell phone antennas on it, you'll see that it's practically ringed with them as they're radiating out in all the different directions of the compass. And then if you multiply that by how many different carriers are using that tower, and then multiply that by how much power each one is putting out, how many calls are happening at that moment, and so on. You can't really know how much radiation you're getting in a given location unless you measure. You can't guess by, I'm this far from the tower and there's this many towers, and you can't know. You need to measure.
Yeah, you really have to measure. We had a doctor on, Dr. Jack Cruz, on episode number 174, and he was talking about, the paleo diet and lifestyle and things, and he's a neurosurgeon. And he said that, with diet and everything like that, nutrition, he puts that fourth on the list of things that are most important. And he went into a whole thing about the blue light that we're being exposed to and the electromagnetic fields that we're being exposed to. And that was almost the bulk of the entire show that we did with him. And this stuff is really, it's a lot more damaging, I think, than people realize, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think it's very much like the story of the frog in the pot of water, that we've been slowly turning up the temperature electromagnetically and not really noticing the increments so much until it gets to some critical boiling point where it may well be too late. There are, of course, those people who are more sensitive than others, like there are to anything, whether it be to chemicals or to pollen or poison ivy or peanuts or whatever it is. There's always that percentage of the populations that's especially sensitive. And those are the folks that are leading the charge, if you will. They're the ones that are bothered already. That they can feel it. They're feeling ill. They're getting headaches. They're getting sleepless. They can't focus their mind. They're getting illnesses, irregular heartbeat, and trouble with their sugar regulation, and so on and so on. The list goes on. You can name just about any organ system. But these are the folks, of course, who we hear from day in and day out. They're out there. There's not just one wild person out in the wilderness crying, the sky is falling. They're out there, and fortunately for them, there are some resources. But that number is growing. As our world becomes more electrified, as we add more electrical gadgets into our homes, microwave ovens and smart meters and electric blankets and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And B, as our length of exposure increases, right? We've been doing this now as a society for 100 years, but as individuals, the amount of electrification has increased dramatically in the last 10 to 20 years.
Do you think that next generations coming up are going to be even more sensitive than this generation here now?
It's a really good question. I don't think I or anyone understands genetics quite enough to know the answer to that. One thing I know for sure is that in utero they're getting a lot more exposure than my generation did back in the 50s, or, the generation ahead of me. So whether or not that in utero exposure and that early childhood exposure is going to lead to more sensitivity, I don't know. But I have a very, very strong conviction that it's going to lead to more illness.
Yeah,
and I make that distinction. I think it's important, sensitivity and illness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sensitivity could just be what, things as little as skin rashes or things, or...
Skin rashes, a sense of burning on the skin, headache, pain or burning in the eyes. But, illness then takes it quite a quantum leap further. Of course, cancer, of course, reproductive issues, heart rate issues, blood sugar control issues, Alzheimer's been associated with it, kidney disease have been associated with it, effects on the blood-brain barrier, melatonin balance, and so on and so on.
Now, do we know to what extent it's affecting the body? Like, if these things are associated with, if these diseases are associated with EMFs, can we say yet if EMFs are causing these diseases, or is there not enough scientific data for that?
There's actually lots and lots and lots of data. The problem with the data is that some of it, like all data, some of it is better than others.
Right.
And I say that cautiously because some of the data may be coming from sources that have a certain bias to prove. And so it kind of dilutes the legitimacy of all the data if you don't know which data is good and which data isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, there is lots. There are not tens, not scores, but there are hundreds and hundreds of scientific studies from all over the world linking electromagnetic fields with A, biological effects, and B, health effects.
Mm-hmm.
And, electromagnetic fields associated with power lines and electricity, but also associated with cell phones and Wi-Fi and all the wireless technology.
Do you know if there's an issue with people who have these electrical wires? Sometimes in older neighborhoods, especially where I live, you'll see the wires. It's not underground, so the wires will actually be connected to the roofs of people's houses. Is this an issue?
It is an issue. You will be getting electromagnetic fields, both electric fields and magnetic fields, low-frequency fields, from power lines. Whether they're overhead or whether they're buried, you'll be getting fields.
Mm-hmm.
The factors that influence how much depend on how much electric current is flowing in the wires and the configuration of the wires. There are some configurations that actually provide some degree of cancellation, so you get less emissions overall. The further apart the wires are, the less cancellation you get. So, yes, and then, of course, your distance to the wires, right? The closer you are to them, the worse it is. Yes, if you have them right over your house or right near your house, you have more of a problem than someone who's further away.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in a lot of the newer developments I see, they're doing it underground. Is there really a difference? I mean, sure, there's a difference in terms of where it is, but is there really a health difference if it's under the ground?
The ground doesn't provide any sort of shielding or protection.
Okay.
Think about it this way. You have two factors going on. One is the distance. If you are standing right in the right-of-way, either right under or right over the power line, if it's overhead, it might be 30 or 50 feet above your head. If it's underground, it might only be 3 or 4 feet below your feet. So, you're much closer to it when it's underground.
I see.
The other thing works in the other way. Above ground, the overhead power lines tend to be more spread out. They might be separated by 3 or 6 feet of distance. So you get less cancellation. When they bury them, they're all in a bundle, typically. And so you get more cancellation. So the two factors kind of work against each other. So your exposure may be close to the same either way.
Right.
It's not necessarily that one's better than the other. In terms of eyesore, of course, or hurricane issues, that is a big difference. But in terms of EMF exposure, not usually that much difference.
Wow. Interesting stuff. We're going to take a little break here. But after the break, I'd like to discuss, I think there's 3 types of EMF, and EMF isn't just one thing. There's the electromagnetic field, radio frequency, and magnetic fields that you guys help to mitigate and deal with for people. So I want to talk about those after the break. And if you are interested in any of the products at Less EMF, we are connected up with Emil and his wonderful website with over 300 products he mentioned. So if you want to buy them through us, we'll get a little commission, and that will help support our work. You can go to extremehealthradio.com/less EMF, all one word, and it's lowercase, less EMF. And this is going to be really, really fascinating information that we're going to talk about in the rest of the show. So we'll be right back with Emil right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress, and stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself. So go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
Listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
All right, we're having a great time here with Emil DeToffol from lessemf.com, and you can find a link to his website at extremehealthradio.com/lessemf if you would like to support our work. But this is really interesting information that we are getting into, and I think that a lot of you guys would be served well to check into this, because how many times are we using our cell phones and we're using all of these devices that simply just are not natural to us. They're not natural to our physiology. They're not natural to our biology. They're not natural to our mental and emotional states. they're just really wreaking havoc, I believe, on our biological health. So it would serve us well to learn how to protect ourselves from these electromagnetic frequencies, if I could say that correctly. So, Emil, before the break, we kind of mentioned a little bit about there's really 3 different types of EMF. Is that correct? The electromagnetic, the RF, and the magnetic? I'm sorry, Emil, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Oh, sorry about that. I think I may have had you muted. I apologize. There are the 3 different types of EMFs, aren't there?
Yes, there are. We think of them as the electric field.
Uh-huh.
Frequency fields.
Okay.
In general, the electric and magnetic fields are what we would give names to the low-frequency radiation that we get from power lines, for example, from electricity in the walls, or from anything that's running on electricity in our homes, motors, lights, computers, and so on.
Okay.
The radio waves, or some people call them microwaves, are the high frequency. And this, of course, is what comes out of our cell phones and our laptops and, of course, the cell phone towers. And, of course, the same microwaves that are in our microwave oven cooking our food.
Uh-huh.
So we think of them in those 3 distinct categories because we would use 3 different kinds of meters to measure them, and then, of course, 3 different approaches to shielding or reducing them based on which category they're in.
So is it safe to say that most people just living in urban, suburban homes are exposed to all 3? Even without testing, it's probably safe to say that.
It would be safe to say that. It would be a rare circumstance if you had no EMF in your urban or suburban or even rural environment nowadays.
Right.
Most devices emit more than one type of EMF. Wiring will emit both electric and magnetic fields, for example.
Okay.
A cell phone will emit magnetic and microwave. So you can have more than one type coming out of an individual source. And, of course, in an average home, you've got multiple sources, right? Everything that is at all connected with electricity or communication is going to be emitting to some extent or another, including all the wiring and the breaker box and all that.
And so does each one of those different types of electromagnetic radiation, the electromagnetic, radio frequency, and magnetic, do they all affect our physiology in different ways?
Yes, that's exactly right. Comparing, for example, electric fields and magnetic fields, our skin is a pretty good shield for electric fields, and so they tend not to penetrate very deeply. Therefore, the effects that we see from electric field exposure tend to be on the surface. So a rash or a burning sensation on the skin or on the eyes is typical for an electric field reaction.
Okay.
Magnetic fields pass right through us completely. Our body doesn't offer any shielding effect for magnetic fields. So the impact tends to be deeper. So neurologic, right, headaches and mental confusion, sleeplessness, cardiac issues, arrhythmias or fast heartbeat, issues with the blood, the reproductive system, the other organ systems, liver, kidney, and so on, and in particular, the brain. So they have very different abilities to penetrate, and then within that, they interact with the matter in our bodies in different ways as well.
So is there, I'm just trying to think here, if we're exposed to all 3, and each three of them, or all 3 of them, affect our physiology in a specific way, the fact that if we're being exposed to all 3 of them, does that do anything to create an almost 4th way that it's affecting us? Like the fact that these things are mixing together and we're all being exposed to all 3 of them, does that create an even greater danger, do you think?
I understand what you're saying, and I think you're right in this sense. There will be certain configurations of frequency and intensity that will resonate with a component of the body. Just like there are certain resonant frequencies on the strings of a violin. Some frequencies will resonate better than others because of the length and the tension in the string. It's the same way when electromagnetics interact with matter. Some frequencies cause the matter to shake much stronger than others. And so when you have a wide variety of frequencies present, you have a better chance of some of them hitting the right resonant frequency to affect the cells in the gallbladder, to affect the cells in the pineal gland, to affect the cells in the eye or the bones or so on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of statistics in a sense. If you get the right, maybe let's call it the wrong frequency going, you can do the most damage. And so you have better chances of getting that specific frequency or range of frequencies if you have a lot of different frequencies going. We've seen a number of studies where they've applied pure 60 hertz electromagnetic fields to living tissue and found that it has little or no untoward effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so they claim, well, EMFs are safe. Well, the problem is, and maybe it's not a problem, maybe it's a good thing, that at 60 hertz, which is the common frequency of power here in the United States, it's true, it's not a good resonant frequency for the cells of the body. And so most of that energy passes through unobstructed. However, in the real world, you almost never get a pure 60 hertz sine wave. You will get other frequencies mixed in on your wiring and other waveforms, square waves or spikes or jagged waves in there. And depending on what combination of those you get will affect how much biological impact you'll have. So this is a real complication for doing research into the health effects of electromagnetic fields because, A, how well are we qualifying what the electromagnetic field is that we're being exposed to in the experiment? As the scientist just said, well, it's 3 milligauss of magnetic field. Well, 3 milligauss of what? Pure 60 hertz? 60 hertz with a 180 hertz harmonic? Is it electric field? Is it magnetic field? Are there microwaves in the background of the laboratory that haven't even been evaluated?
Or is that 60 hertz?
And so on.
Or is that 60 hertz spiking? Or is that just an average? Or
correct. Correct.
So why is 60 hertz? That's what we are in the U.S. and I think Europe's 50 hertz, and we know that the Schumann resonance of the Earth in the ionosphere is about 7.8 hertz. Is 60 hertz bad because it's so high, or why is 60 hertz not harmful to us?
Well, it's harmful. Okay, 60 hertz is harmful. Other frequencies are harmful as well. I want to be clear about that.
Okay.
The 60 hertz is harmful because it's energy that's interacting with the molecules of our body. So when you take, our body's reactions are chemical reactions, right? The way sugars are metabolized, the way DNA replicates, the way our food is digested. It's all a chemical process. And chemical processes, fundamentally, are all electrical processes. They're all the exchange of electrons between various molecules. When you take that a chemical reaction and you expose it to an electromagnetic field, you change the way those electrons are shaking around in that beaker, if you want to call it that. There's a whole science of microwave chemistry where chemists working in a laboratory will influence the way a reaction in a beaker occurs by exposing it to microwaves of varying frequencies and varying intensities to get a specific result. So imagine in our bodies we're exposing ourselves to microwaves and other electromagnetic fields willy-nilly, who knows what kind, what frequency, what intensity, and therefore having or forcing the reactions in a direction that, A, that we don't even know what direction that is, but B, in directions that may not be what are most conducive to the health of our body. In the absence of these external fields, the body will regulate the reactions. We know the body stops digesting when the food is gone, and we know that the heart stops racing when there's enough oxygen circulating, and so on. But now you start to influence or push the reaction in one direction because you've introduced the energy of electromagnetic fields, and you throw the whole system out of balance. It's as simple as making the chemical reaction head off in a certain direction because the energy of the electromagnetic field is pushing it in that direction.
That's so interesting because, recently I've been learning about the Heart Math Institute. I think that's out your way, somewhere on the East Coast. And they've been doing experiments with people where just the fact that they're thinking about certain things can affect the bacteria that's in yogurt, say, for example, in front of them. And they've done testings on that. And we really are electromagnetic, electric creatures, aren't we? So our hearts and our glands and our organs are all going to be affected by these frequencies.
Sure they will. Yeah, without question. I mean, just like the metal in the antenna is affected, so are the electrical components of every atom, right? The nucleus, which is positively charged, and the electrons, which are negatively charged, are all influenced by electromagnetic fields. You make the electron shake by exposing them to an electromagnetic field. And that shaking may make them either more prone or less prone to the chemical reaction that they would have undergone without the electromagnetic field present.
Wow. I often wonder how amazing the effect would be if we were able to allow the electromagnetic frequencies in our lives to be made known and to be able to be seen, similar to smoking. And if you could do that, I'm sure that people would take notice a lot more, wouldn't they?
That's a fascinating idea. If you could do that in a visual and a conceptual way, I think people would run from the room as if it was on fire. I think it would be a very noisy, very crowded, very foggy scenario.
Right. Do you think there's any issues with people like now with flying and, they're allowing internet access to be available on flights and people getting in, trains or subways or buses or cars in these little tin cans using their phones? Does that make the frequencies unable to escape, or does it have an effect in any way?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The answer is yes, it makes it worse.
It does.
You're inside of a shielded compartment, or not maybe 100% perfectly shielded, but well shielded because of the metal structure of the plane or the train. And so the radiation generated inside will bounce off the plane until it either escapes out the small windows or is absorbed by something. And since humans, big bags of salt water, are pretty good absorbers of radiation, that's pretty much where it all ends up. In addition, there's all the electronics of the plane itself, right? The communications and so on. So, and plus being at higher altitude, then you've got all of the solar radiation issues and atmospheric radiation issues.
And then on top of...
in a plane,
I'm sorry.
Add that to the TSA screening you just went through. Flying is a high radiation activity these days.
And then on top of that, aren't you blocking yourself from the Schumann resonance or resonance that we need to be healthy? So you're blocking the good, and then they're exposing yourself to all the other stuff as well. That's
an interesting question. I've not seen any data about how strong the Schumann resonance is in a plane at 30,000 feet compared to how it is on the ground. I have no idea. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I've heard about how that becomes a factor at 30,000 feet, but in any event, I mean, the radiation you're being exposed to is so much higher. So if someone's going to be doing a lot of traveling like that, what would you suggest? What should they do? If I guess it doesn't matter if they're going in cars or maybe even truck drivers. They're in tin cans too.
Well, you are, and in your car, we've tested a number of cars. The cars nowadays are coming out with so much electronics built into them that will, park the car for you and make sure you don't run yourself over and all these things. that the cars now emit an enormous amount of microwave radiation. So the car itself is a huge transmitter. The latest model cars, and you can see that if you had a meter, you can take it out to your car and you can sweep around different areas of the car and see how strong the radiation is over here by the steering column, over here by the dash, over here by the seat, and so on.
Interesting.
But add to that, if you take out your cell phone inside the car, And unless it's a convertible with no top on it, if you make a call, you're doing the same thing. The signal is reflecting off of the metal of the roof and the sides of the car, bouncing around until it either escapes out through the windows or is absorbed by the best absorber in the car, which is you and your children.
Have you heard? I've heard that, I've never tested this, but I've heard that the little Priuses, the hybrids and things, I heard those are some of the worst.
They will be high. The electrical cars, the all-electric and the hybrid cars, are generating a lot of electromagnetic fields. There's a lot of current flowing. There's a lot of energy there, as you can imagine, to move a car or to stop a car. So yes, you're going to have high fields. Not everywhere in the car. You're typically going to have the high fields closest to the cables and the batteries. Often those are under the back seat where your children might be sitting. Often they're under the driver's, the floor of the driver's area. So it's well worth, if you're shopping for a car, whether a new one or a used one, to, among other things, as you're looking at the features of the car, when you take your test drive, take your Gauss meter and make some simple measurements in the car. Have a helper do it for you while you're driving.
Right.
And make some measurements in the different locations where the people are going to be. It doesn't really matter if it's real high out by the tailpipe. Nobody's going to be sitting over there. Make the measurements where the people are likely to be, where their chest is going to be, where their head is going to be, where their pelvis is going to be, and see what kind of emission pattern there is in the model of car that you're looking at.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the people who are more environmentally concerned will want to get onto the Priuses and the hybrids and things, but you realize too that there's still so much oil that's being produced, for the paints of the cars and the tires, and so in terms of oil usage, it's still going to be really, really high. And then you're adding to that the electromagnetic fields that are coming off more of those cars. Just interesting stuff. So we're with Emil DeToffol from lessemf.com, and when we get back, I want to talk for a few minutes about grounding and some of these meters that he sells, and maybe we can figure out which kinds of meters we should buy, and then some ways to protect ourselves from these fields. So we'll be right back with Emil right after this break. Kate and I have had our sauna for about a year now, I'd say, when we first got it from Phil Wilson. And it's an incredible machine. We use ours about every single day. Kate sits in about 20 minutes, and I sit in there about for a half hour. Usually watch a documentary, and it's extremely relaxing. It's really, really incredible machine. And if you go to extremehealthradio.com/sauna, you can learn all about it. We did an entire hour interview with Phil Wilson. You can check that out. You can look at the pictures of us with it. You can watch videos on that page. It helps you to sleep really, really well. You can lose a lot of weight with it. You can burn, I think, around 600 calories in about 20 minutes or so. It improves your skin, increases circulation all over the body, and circulation is critical for your health. You can prevent and reverse diseases with it if you have a cold or flu. It's incredible. It heats you down to the core. It heats 4 to 6 inches inside your body, so it's really incredible. And a lot of people use it for cancer as well. So if you have any kind of incurable, quote, disease, you can use it for that. And Dr. Shade is the foremost authority on detoxification. And listen to what he says about it.
How do I detoxify from plastics? I mean, you guys are using a sauna, and what does a sauna do for us? A sauna is great. It's moving a number of different toxins. Remember, we talked about the mice that if you put PCBs in there, then that made the mercurial that much worse. And sweating moves out a lot of plastics, volatiles, fat-based toxins. It's really good at moving those out, sweating those out. So that's how you're getting those out, and those are contributing to this synergistic soup inside the body. And so that's why they're good, is they're taking out a bunch of the different things in the soup.
And Daniel Vitalis, one of our favorite guests. What do you have to say about the sauna?
When you go into the sauna, like a far infrared sauna like you discussed, your body goes into a deep relaxation mode, and your sympathetic nervous system shuts down and your parasympathetic nervous system turns on. And when that's active, that's the nervous system, part of your nervous system that's active when you meditate. that becomes active and your detoxification pathways open up wide. Why is this important? It's important because when you go running and you sweat, you're not necessarily eliminating very much toxicity from your body. But when you sweat in the sauna, you eliminate a lot of toxicity from your body. So sweating in a relaxed state is how we eliminate. The other thing is that what's wonderful about the sauna is that it puts you in a parasympathetic nervous system response, like as if you were meditating. So it's almost a hack. It's like a trick to get yourself into a meditative, relaxed state, to decompress stress, to reverse the effects of stress, and to get your body eliminating deep toxicity that's stored in your body fat because it can come out in the oils of your skin. So I think, sauna is one of the most crucial detoxification, really health practices that we could take on, especially in this era of heavy toxicity, particularly fat-soluble toxins.
This sauna is really, really great. They offer payment plans because if you buy it through PayPal, it's 100% secure. You don't even need a PayPal account. I think you could do a payment plan through PayPal. It's got low EMF electromagnetic fields coming off of it. It's portable, so that means you don't have to knock down a wall in your house. You can just move it from room to room. It sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes. It's super easy to clean. All you got to do is wipe it down when you're done and wipe the neck down. And it produces energy and heat inside very, very evenly throughout the whole machine. All you have to do is sit in there for about 15 minutes a day. And the great thing I like about it too is it requires zero preheating. So you turn it on and you're starting to get warm and you're starting to detoxify with that far infrared light almost immediately. So it's really great. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It's about $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really, really a good deal because if you look at most of the regular saunas out there, they are in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. So this is really, really a good deal. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna.
All free shows, all the time on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
And as the lady said, don't forget to follow us on Facebook. And if you'd like to sign up to our newsletter list, we'd love to have you join now. Got thousands of subscribers on there. We give away a really amazing ebook called Lessons from the Miracle Doctors, all for free. And it sells for $20 on Amazon. So if you want to sign up, we'll send that over to you immediately. Right after you sign up, I'll send it right over to you. So don't forget to do that. And so we're just having some really good conversation here with Emil DeToffol from lessemf.com, and we are connected up with his website. So if you want to check out our store, we've got about 8 videos on the store from his website talking about EMF and sensitivities and showing how some of the products that he has works. And so Emil, I wanted to ask you, I bet you, when you see mothers, pregnant mothers, or mothers giving their kids these cell phones, I'm sure you just cringe, don't you?
I do cringe, and I see it in advertising imagery all the time, kind of making the point that, this is acceptable and safe to do. Let your kids, let your cell phone be your kid's nanny.
Right.
It's such a bad idea because the children's developing brains are much more sensitive to this. They're smaller so that the radiation penetrates deeper in. The skulls are thinner so that they provide less shielding, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's overall a bad idea.
Yeah,
not to mention the normal place that someone holds a phone when they're texting or a tablet when they're working with it is typically right in front of their abdomen. Mm. So a pregnant mother who's doing that is providing the best radiation possible to her developing fetus.
Isn't that, yeah? And so it's tough to see. You just kind of see it, and you don't want to say anything. But man, is it everywhere in today's culture, isn't it?
It's tough to say and to see, and I have to admit that most people, if approached on the street, uninvited, don't want to hear it.
No.
I've been there. I've tried that. It doesn't work.
It does not work. So now with some of these things that people have, a lot of people these days have iPads, and a lot of people, we just got a laptop for Kate, my wife, and she's on the show. She's not here today, but we got her a laptop to be able to do some work. And these things really do emit a lot, don't they?
They do. A laptop, of course, you have control over whether or not it's going to be radiating, right? You can turn off the wireless component to it and connect a cable, right? Mm-hmm. So that you're connected to the internet via cable. And you've reduced your microwave radiation by 100%. You're completely without radiation. The tablets, on the other hand, you don't have that option of connecting with a cable. Uh-huh. And so they're radiating, believe it or not, even when they're turned off. So they're especially pernicious in that regard, that they radiate microwaves, of course, very powerfully, and even when they're turned off. So it's not something that should be stored in the bedroom when you're sleeping. Uh-huh. And heaven forbid, it's not something that a child should be using.
And a lot of times people don't realize that a lot of their appliances, like their hair dryers and their Vitamix blenders and their Blendtec blenders, all these blenders that we love as health people, these do emit frequencies as well, don't they?
They do. They use a lot of electrical current. And of course, this is not microwave radiation now. We're talking going back to now the electric and magnetic fields.
Electric.
So they have motors in them that draw a lot of current. You can tell because they're making a lot of noise. And yes, if you were to measure with a Gauss meter, you would see a very high magnetic field. And just like the heat from a candle, these fields, whether it's microwave or whether it's magnetic fields, do decrease with distance from the source. Uh-huh. So don't ever let your kids watch the popcorn popping in the microwave oven, mm-hmm. and don't stand next to your blender. Turn it on. Take a couple of steps back. If you must use a cell phone, increase your distance. Hold it at arm's length. Use the speakerphone. Do texting. If you need, you can use a headset. Don't put the thing up to your head. Don't store it in your breast or in your pants pocket. Mm-hmm. Don't keep it next to your body. And please, please do not use a Bluetooth device. You're only adding a second source of radiation.
Really? So Bluetooth is harmful?
A Bluetooth device, a little radio device that you put in your ear, is communicating with your cell phone through a microwave signal. So now you have your cell phone communicating with the tower with its microwave signal, and a second device, the Bluetooth device in your ear, adding its radiation. And I happen to notice that people, when using Bluetooth, tend to keep it in, whether they're on a call or not. So they're radiating much longer than they would just to make a short phone call.
So there's a length of, there's a duration that's happening that wouldn't otherwise happen then, too.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a source of radiation and then a duration of radiation that would not be there at all if you were using your cell phone.
And another thing people need to be aware of are these dimmer switches that happen that are inside a lot of people's houses. Those things are quite emit quite a bit of frequencies too, don't they?
They do, and they emit in a noisy sort of fashion. And what I mean by that is it's a broad mixture of frequencies that they emit, higher frequencies, usually in the kilohertz range, what many people will call dirty electricity. Mm-hmm. And this is emitted directly from the switch out into the air in the vicinity of the switch, but it's also injected back into the wiring, and so it circulates throughout the house and is transmitted by the wiring throughout the house. Dimmer switches, halogen lights, fluorescent lights, and some electronic equipment, like some stereo equipment and the little LED clock on the top of your stove, these are particularly offensive for injecting dirty electricity back into the wiring. And by dirty electricity, I mean that high-frequency signal, that one that has that much more biological impact.
Can dirty electricity be transmitted if people are living in condos from one condo to another where they have attached walls?
Yes, in fact, it can be transmitted from one freestanding building to its neighbor through the wiring, because our wiring is all connected. Right at some point in our house, the wiring from our house is connected to wires that go to the power line, which is then connected in the same way to your neighbor's house. So yes, you can be getting dirty electricity into your home from the power line, meaning from the contributions of your neighbors traveling through the power line into your home.
So if we have a meter from one of your meters that you sell, perhaps what would be the meter that they would get for that?
Yeah, there's a specific meter for that. It's called a Stetzerizer, and it's a meter specifically for measuring dirty electricity.
Okay.
It's one of the most easiest to use meters there is. It's a meter with a plug on it. The meter gives you a number, just a single number. So you go around and you plug this into the various outlets in your home, and you look to see the number it gives you is how much dirty electricity you have in that circuit.
Okay.
And you'd like that number to be low, typically below 50.
Okay.
But it can be all over the place. When we moved into our house here in Albany some years ago, of course we checked it for electromagnetic fields, and one of the things we found that was very high for dirty electricity. We were having levels of about 1,500. So we immediately took some steps to remediate that, because you want to get it down below 50.
So you want to get those below 50, and those are little things you can plug into the wall, into the plugs, and it'll give you a reading right there.
Correct. If you can't eliminate the source, in other words, remove a dimmer switch, for example, and put in a regular switch, you can use filters to bring these dirty electricity under control. And they're as simple as plugging into an outlet. They just stay there, sort of like a night light would. You just plug it in the outlet and you leave it. They're quiet and they don't wear out, and they just drain that dirty electricity off harmlessly, and you can eliminate that problem very quickly and easily.
Do you have one of those? I saw on your website. Do you have one of those Faraday cages, those blankets or sheets that you lay over or you drape over the top of your bed? Do you use those?
I don't have one on my bed. In where we are, interestingly, the house that we have is an older home, and it has aluminum siding on it. And the aluminum siding is a very effective shield for radio waves and microwaves.
Interesting.
And so where we are, we're fortunate that inside the house, the levels are low. So we certainly checked for it, and if there had been an issue, we would have done something about it. But we were fortunate that it was low. You step outside or you go out on our roof, and you would see that the levels are much higher, which I did. I stepped out on the second floor roof there with my meter. And
wow.
Picking up quite a bit of radiation. But yeah, you can use a canopy. If you are getting cell phone signals, Wi-Fi signals that you don't want, you can put a canopy over your bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special shielding fabric, and it will reduce those. We have a shielded sleeping bag that you could sleep inside of. We have shielding fabrics that you can make drapes for your windows or even sheets or bedding. And many people will do that. We even have shielded paint, so you could paint your walls or your ceiling if you want to keep those signals out. So there's all kinds of strategies. It always starts with getting the diagnosis, though. Get your meter, make some measurements, find out, do I have radiation? If I do, what kind is it? Is it electric field? Is it magnetic field? Is it radio waves? And thirdly, then, where is it coming from? Is it coming from something I control? Is it coming from the alarm clock by my bed? Is it coming from my Wi-Fi modem? Is it coming from my neighbor or that cell tower across the street? Once you've identified what you've got and where it's coming from, then we can begin to have a conversation about the options for doing something about it. And there's always more than one option. There's increasing distance, there's turning things off, there's replacing things with lower emission alternatives, and of course there's shielding. So there's always choices to be made. Now, you may not like all the choices, but there's always choices to be made.
Yeah, and I'm sure within each of those choices, there's degrees within each one of those where you could find something that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Some will be easier than others. Some will be more costly than others. Some will be more dramatic than others. And some will be just simply impractical. So there's always, some conversation to have about what's possible and what's affordable and what's reasonable, and come to the right solution for your particular situation. We often get asked, well, what do other people do in my situation? I'll tell you what, almost no one else is in your situation. The electromagnetic field environment from home to home varies so greatly that what someone else did will almost always not be relevant to what you're doing.
So if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I need to start doing something, and we've talked about the first step being getting some meters and doing some testing and figuring out where it's coming from, how bad it is, and so forth. What meter would you recommend as someone's first purchase?
I love the Tri-Field meter. The Tri-Field meter, made in U.S., is a fantastic, easy-to-use meter that will help you measure the low-frequency electric and magnetic fields. Very fast to use. You one button on it, you turn it to electric, and you walk around, you measure your electric fields. You turn it to magnetic, you walk around, and you see where you've got magnetic fields. Fantastic meter, inexpensive, or affordable on almost anyone's budget. It's a great place to start because it'll open your eyes to the world of what's happening around you in terms of the electromagnetic field.
And then after that, would you recommend a gauze or a Stetzer meter?
The next step, you never know what you're going to find, right? So it's a little hard to predict, but the next step I would generally recommend is to get a meter for measuring the microwaves. The first meter, Tri-Field meter, for measuring electric and magnetic fields. The second one for measuring the microwaves. We have a great one called the 3-axis RF meter. Again, affordable, designed to be simple to use, very sensitive. You turn it on, and you walk around and see how much microwave radiation you've got in this location, in that location, how much is coming through the windows versus how much is coming through the walls, and so on.
Okay, what was the name of that meter again?
It's called the 3-axis RF meter.
Okay, then if you want to take it a step further, would you get the Stetzer?
The next step would be the Stetzer. Yep.
Okay.
Stetzer meter, check for dirty electricity.
Okay.
And if we ever get a chance to speak again, you'll go a fourth level to measuring your body voltage and checking for grounding issues.
Yes, that was the final thing I wanted to talk with you about. Do you have a couple minutes to talk about grounding?
Sure, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that was my final one. A lot of people are doing grounding these days, and do you think that grounding is a good thing? I've heard that you want to make sure that you don't you don't want to be the conduit through which electricity uses you as a ground, do you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Grounding is a good thing. There's no question about it. You want to discharge any electricity that's building up in your body. There's absolutely no question about that.
Okay.
However, as you mentioned, you can ground in such a way that you put yourself in the path of the flow of electricity from one place in your environment to another. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to do that. So you want to start at the beginning with your Tri-Field meter that we mentioned before and check for electric and magnetic fields first and address those first. You put yourself between a source of, let's say you have a wiring in the ceiling above you, and then so you will have a strong electric field if you were standing under it and you measure. If you were also standing under it, you would have a high body voltage. Now, you could you could introduce a grounding platform that you could stand on or sit on, and your body voltage would go down. But what you would effectively be doing is putting yourself as a conduit for this electric field from the wiring to travel through your body into your grounding pad and then out into the earth or into the soil.
I see.
Not such a good idea. If you needed to do it in that place and you couldn't turn off the electricity in that wire, put the grounding above you. In other words, between you and the source of the electric field. Now you're both grounded, and you're no longer the conduit for that electric.
So you're essentially just removing yourself from the circuit, right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
You're standing or stepping outside of the circuit, so you're still enjoying the grounding, but not being a conduit.
And do you have grounding sheets that you sell?
There's a company that has a patent on grounding sheets and grounding for health.
Okay.
And they sell them ready-made.
Okay.
They do a good job of it. They have a patent on it, and they protect their patent pretty carefully. Their lawyers have threatened us a few times for telling people how to do it. So
I see.
We can't do that anymore.
So it would be a good thing to get some grounding sheets as long as you're perhaps put something outside, maybe some paint or something, or a canopy where you remove yourself from the circuit, and then the grounding would be probably extremely helpful.
Correct.
Is there any issues with this electricity, this, what do they call it, stray voltage? that the power companies use that doesn't go all the way back to their facilities and coming up through the grounding sheets to you?
Yes, there's a potential for that. Remember, electricity will flow from a place of high voltage to a place of low voltage, any which way it can. And the power lines, at least in this country, are so constructed that some of the power, it makes a circuit, right, from the utility, through the wires, out to your house, through your light bulb, back out to the wires, and then back to the utility. It makes a complete circuit. However, some of that electricity, as it travels to your house, through the light bulb, back to your circuit breaker box, has access to a ground wire that's connected either to your plumbing or to a giant ground rod that's buried in the ground outside your home. So some of the electricity will follow that path out into the soil and then through the soil back to the utility company. And so will your neighbors and your neighbors' neighbors and so on. So that in some places where the soil is particularly conductive and where the wiring is not particularly good, I mean the power line wiring, you may get a lot of electricity flowing in the soil, referred to as ground current. In certain areas of the Midwest and even here in upstate New York, dairy farmers have had a big problem with this.
Right.
Because the barns, the soil tends to be wet and tends to be wet with urine, which is a very good conductor. And the electricity will flow through the soil into the cows, up one leg, through the cow, out the other leg, and the cows don't appreciate it at all. And it affects milk production, it affects the health of the cows, and it affects their reproductive ability, and so on. So, yes, ground current can be an issue, and it is a big issue in some places. And if you were to ground yourself to it, you could be creating problems for yourself as well.
But essentially, at the very root level, it is extremely healthy if you're thinking about someone walking around in the woods with no shoes on, that kind of a thing. The idea of grounding itself is amazing. It's just that we have all these technological issues that we have to kind of work around, right?
You're absolutely right. We've polluted our ground even with electricity, not to mention the pesticides and the chemicals and the dirty water.
Okay, so I want to let you go because I know you're a busy man. You got a company to run. I wanted to ask you one final thing. If people want to call you, are there any... Do you know of people around the nation that would be able to work with people and answer their questions? I know you guys can do that too. People can call you guys, right, and ask these kind of questions?
They can call us. I mean, we're not an information resource per se. I mean, we are a business, but we're happy to help people in any way we can. There are some professionals around the country we maintain a list of who do EMF consulting, where they can come to your home, make measurements, give you guidance on shielding strategies, and we'd be happy to refer someone in your area if we know of. So that's both of those are possible.
Okay, gosh, what a great resource, because I know people might be listening thinking, oh gosh, this is a whole new discipline in life that I have to become an expert at, and it just sounds so daunting. What do I do? And so something like this would be great. So people can call you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure can. Yeah.
Excellent. And so people, now, can you recommend any books if people want to learn more about this kind of stuff?
Yes, we maintain a full library of EMF books. We probably have, 75 titles, all about EMF. So we have some great books. There are two terrific books if you want to get started. One is called The Power Watch Handbook. Very well written, very clear, very practical information. How-to information, not a whole lot of scientific formulas and theory.
Okay.
But it's what to do if you have dimmer switches, what to do if you have this, what to do if you have that.
Oh, okay, good.
The other one is called Zapped, Z-A-P-P-E-D. It's in a question and answer format, and it also is very good beginning information, how-to type information. So both of those titles are available from our website, and they're both great places to start to learn about these issues.
Okay, this is good. This is good stuff because, as you know, people are using these phones and technology. I'm sitting at a computer all day, and if we're doing these types of things on a daily basis for, upwards of 8 hours, and then you combine sleeping with that, another 8 hours, we're exposing ourselves 16 hours a day at least, if not 24, to this kind of stuff. So it's imperative to learn a little bit, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And it may seem daunting, but once you get started on it, once you get a meter and walk around, you'll be amazed at how intuitive it is. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The meter gives you eyes to see what you can't see otherwise. And once you can see it, it becomes obvious.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, once you get enough experience with it, you start walking around, and you can't really see it with your eyes, but you get to know, oh, there's a field coming out from that fan that is extending out about 4 feet.
Right.
You know, in your imagination, you can see these things after you have enough experience.
Wow.
So, it becomes a very useful extension of your senses so that you can gain access to this somewhat hidden but not innocent world of electromagnetic fields.
You know, and one thought came to mind as you're just talking about the very place where we send people to heal, which are hospitals, or I'm sure are the most highly, places with the highest amount of electromagnetic fields, right?
You're right. They have wired themselves thoroughly between patient ID, communications, monitoring devices, the lighting, of course, and so on. Yeah, they have really wired themselves to the max.
Well, this is good stuff. Thank you for spending some time out of your day with us, and I know you got to run a company, so thank you for the work you do and for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Justin. It's been a real pleasure.
Wow, what did you think about Emil DeToffol from Less EMF? Talk about interesting information. Talk about a guy that's really just focused on this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm so glad there's people out there that are just, have that singular focus, aren't you? I mean, it's just so cool. Like, you have guys like Tristan Truscott doing Qigong and they're doing energy work. Then you have guys that just focus on these one particular issues. And, I just think it's really, really helpful. And I found it to be very helpful. What we're going to do is we're going to be the guinea pig for you guys in case I'm sure a lot of you people have already purchased some of this type of stuff, these meters. But we're going to get some of this stuff because I'm sitting around all of this electronic equipment, soundboards, and all these, I don't even know what they are, all this equipment to do this show, microphones and wires everywhere. So what we're going to do is do some testing. We're going to get one of those tri-field meters to start with. We're going to get the Stetzer one, and we're going to get the other one. I forget what the other one was called. The Gauss meter, I think, from Emil. And we are going to do some testing and see what we can do to mitigate some of this stuff, because we have electric wires connected to our roof, like I mentioned during the show. And, we are exposed to this just as much as you are. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this, to see what kinds of levels that we're being exposed to. And I'm sure that I'm exposed to a little bit more just by being around this type of equipment. But on the flip side, I don't have a cell phone. So many of you have cell phones. So I would start, if you have cell phones, just maybe buy one of those meters. Maybe buy the tri-field meter. I was just looking on their website, $150 right now. Not too bad. And you can check it out there. And if you go to our site, or actually our store, we've got about 8 videos that you can look at. And they have some interesting things. They have this paint that's really interesting. It's like a black paint, but what you do is you paint your wall and then you let it dry. And I'm not sure if you do 1 coat or 2, but then what you do is you paint your color over it. And so you don't even know that your wall was black. Then they have all kinds of other things like that canopy I told you about that you can drape over the top of your bed. I suspect that would be a really cool thing, to drape that over your bed and then have some grounding sheets. Get those somewhere. I'm not sure if Emil, I don't think he sells those. Like he said, I think another company has a patent on those, but get some grounding sheets and then protect your bed like that. I bet that would be really interesting. I bet you'd sleep a lot better. And there's an interesting video on our store where they do a test with a cell phone using that shield, that canopy over your bed. And it's interesting when the person uses their iPhone, all of a sudden it loses connection when it's inside the canopy on top of the bed in the bed area. So, yeah, I just think it's really interesting stuff. And I think that if we're going to be living in today's culture and today's society, we just have to figure out, a way to deal with this stuff, because it's only going to get worse. They're going from 3G to 4G now, and pretty soon it's going to be 10G or whatever. It's just going to keep increasing as the speed increases, as the amount of people in the world increases. So, I'm going to get one of those meters, the tri-field meter, and I'm going to get something for Kate's cell phone too, I think. And I've got a grounding pad here, but I'm not sure. I got to do some testing on it. I'm not sure if it's helping me or if it's hurting me. I don't know. So we'll do some testing on that. And they have these aprons. They have these grounded clothes that you could wear. All kinds of really interesting things there on Less EMF. So if you want to support us, and this is something that you're interested in as far as protecting yourself and protecting your family, you want to go through our link. You could go through our store, or you could go to extremehealthradio.com/less EMF to learn more about the products there at Less EMF. So that would help support our work. And we just love Emil and the work that he's doing. Spoke with him extensively off the air just now, and good guy, doing some great stuff. So also call them up too if you are interested in finding someone perhaps in your area that does this kind of work, consulting, and will come to your house and do a test and get a reader and figure out where the levels are coming out. And you want to have someone do that for you and just figure out what products to buy, you might want to call them up, because I just got someone. I spoke with him, like I said, off the air, and I've got someone about 30 minutes from me that I can call who will help us. So we're going to start doing that and talk about what results we get. So if you're interested in other shows that we've done one with Magda Havas, episode number 23, and one with Sheila Hemphill, episode 139. I'll put links to those on this show page, which is 176. And anytime I mention that, you can just go to our website.com/ and then the number, and that will take you to those pages. So 23 and 139 are those show pages. And so you can listen to more about those. And we talked about smart meters, and I think they have some products at Less EMF also to put over your smart meter on the inside of your house as well as on the outside. So there's a lot of options here for you to protect your family. Whatever you do, do your best to increase the distance that you're using that's between you and these cell phones and things. And please can reconsider how your kids use these things as well. Really think about that. And we love Emil. He started Less EMF in 1996, doing some great work. So please support him if you like. If you'd like to support us, you can go through our link on this show page. And if you have any questions about this particular show or comments about the things that he said, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/176, and you'll be able to enter a comment in there, and you'll be able to share it with the community so that it will increase the amount of knowledge that is provided by this particular show to help other people in our community. So that would be a great thing to do. And if you'd like to support our work, we do accept donations. All of our shows are free, 100% free for everybody. We work for free for you guys, and donations are a really huge and great part of helping to keep the show free and helping to improve the show. So we have lots planned for the show to improve everything, and your donations help us to do that. So consider doing that if you can. You can go to extremehealthradio.com/donate if you'd like to do that. And it's time for me to go make a smoothie. I have not, and this time I'm going to stand far away from my Vitamix blender. That's for sure. I'll stand far away from that, and I'll make my smoothie, and I'll call Kate, see how she's doing in her silent retreat. So I hope you guys are doing well and your day is going well. If we could ever help you in any way, please let us know. You can email me, Justin@extremehealthradio.com, or Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com, and we'll love to help you out in any way we possibly can. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog and during this podcast is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any of the information on this podcast or in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting